This is one of the best boxing books that I have in my collection. Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to Fighting Words, the martial arts library. On this channel, I tend to review martial arts books. I'll also cover other martial arts related subjects. And today, the book I'm going to be reviewing is called Boxing's 10 Commandments. And it was published in 2007. The author is Alan Lachica. And I haven't been able to find out a whole lot about the author besides the little blurb in the on the back of the cover. He is a certified boxing trainer, and he also has put out several books on health and fitness. So, that seems to be his focus, is boxing and fitness and how they intertwine. Now, the book title, Boxing's 10 Commandments, it's a way to point out some of the most important parts of boxing, of the science of boxing. And each commandment is given a chapter. And, just like you would expect from a book of this sort, we get to start off with things like, stance, footwork, and movement. From there, we get a chapter on range and distance management. And that includes how to move in and out without really getting hit. Next chapter is on general punching mechanics, and then we get into the punches themselves. And he includes an entire chapter on the jab. That includes some variations of it. And then goes over the other punches, including a few different variations. Like, he will suggest why you want to throw a hook with the palm in and when you want to throw it with the palm down. He includes both and then specifies why you should do it one way or the other. Now, we get a chapter on defenses and counters, and this is pretty extensive. It runs over 60 pages. He's covering defenses against virtually every punch that he's presented thus far. So, multiple defenses versus a jab to the face, multiple defenses to a jab to the body, and so on and so forth. And he also will include counters in these defenses. So, you slip the jab and then you throw like a 3-punch combo to counter it. And I think, particularly for, people who are training, this section can be very valuable in helping build up a variety in your defense and getting into the habit of throwing punches off of your defense. Because sometimes, I think especially for beginners, there is sort of this habit of, I just slipped a punch, good for me. You're just proud that you've done your defense properly and you didn't get hit. And you forget that you get to hit the guy too. The next chapter is on angles, and to me, this is the most valuable chapter of the book. This is the one that, I really learned the most from. And, the chapter on footwork at the beginning was more like the fundamental footwork. How to move left, how to move right, how to pivot. This is moving in with your punches and then moving out on a different angle. And this keeps you defensively sound, but it also offers different offensive opportunities. It creates those opportunities because of the different angles at which you approach your target. The science of boxing is all about angles, both offensively and defensively. So, if I created Joe's omnibus of striking techniques, it would probably include this particular chapter on angles. Now, past that, you get a chapter on sparring, and he offers several different types of sparring here. And it's presented in a progressive manner. So I think a lot of people get the urge to like, I want to hit something, that's why I want to get into boxing. But if you go from just hitting the bag to full on sparring, you're going to miss several steps in between. And this book is helpful in presenting a few steps that you can take in between that can build up your defensive skills and your ability to perform well under pressure before you really get into all-in sparring. And finally, he has a chapter on having a plan, and a lot of that seems to be on boxing-specific workouts. The idea that when you go into the gym, you need to have a plan for, this is what we're going to work on today. Now, pros and cons. The pros of this book, like I said, I'm incredibly high on the chapter on taking angles. I think everybody, the sooner you understand the principles behind what he's talking about, the sooner you're going to advance your skills in overall striking, particularly in boxing. I really appreciate also the extensive defensive vocabulary. There's always more than one response to an incoming strike, whether you evade it or deflect it or shield yourself against it. And again, he presents opportunities to throw back, and what punches come most naturally from the defenses that are showing up. And there's an extensive step-by-step photographic sequence for every technique shown in here. So if you were to take them out, you could use them as a flip book. They'd be very small though, because you can fit like 6 pictures on a page, maybe more. So what would I say the cons are? I have to be really nitpicky and also sort of shoulder shruggy, because I'm not sure that these things are actually cons. Maybe the book would have been a little bit better with more text description of the techniques. I think it does fine as it is. Maybe more would have helped. It also occurred to me that perhaps the amount of photos was superfluous, but even I can't really commit to that. It's hard to be critical of this book. It's pretty good. So who would I recommend this to? Number one is if you have any interest in boxing whatsoever, as far as like the act of boxing another human being. This is an exceptional book for that. It's one of the best that I own. If you have an interest in striking in general, especially other striking sports, there are parts of this that would need to be modified or taken into account for something like, Muay Thai, kickboxing, mixed martial arts. But I also think it provides a really good foundation for techniques and strategies when it comes to, again, full contact striking arts. So those are the people in particular who I would recommend it for. If you train people in this sort of thing, maybe you know most of this stuff, but I think there might be some exercises in the book that, by exercises I don't mean like push-ups or bench press. I mean drills and approaches to training in the book that a trainer might not be aware of and might want to pick up a few little, extra tactics and a little bit of extra spice, on their training regime for their fighters. So that's all I have for this week. I think this is going to be a bit of a short review, but it is mostly pictures. There's a lot of pictures. it's still a really good book. Again, it's one that I personally would strongly recommend. You know, I don't know top 10, top 20, I don't know. You know, but when it comes to boxing, as far as like the understanding the techniques of boxing, this would be very high on the list. And again, that bleeds over into other factors in martial arts, you know, sports striking in general. There are parts of it that I think could come into play for self-defense. You know, self-defense expert Jeff Thompson would say that if you only study one martial art, make it boxing. Well, if you're going to study boxing, this would be a good guidebook for that. So, anyway, I'm all done for now, and thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next week.